Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another excellent episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. Where me and John, two qualified professional wrestlers, talk about wrestling. Um, we're not really professional wrestlers. I should I should clear that up. So we're gonna talk about some stuff. I'm gonna very briefly talk about Elimination Chamber then, since John doesn't remember a whole lot about it. I thought it was a good show. I thought that both like elimination chambers were very good, and they were both very different. Like the women's tag team match one was good because all of the teams got their spots in. All the teams in there looked really good, and you got a good sense of like who they were, which was perfect for like a burgeoning scene, or
Mm.
division.
Yeah, yeah,
And the men's chamber was very good, but it was mainly very good because it turned into like a one-on-one match, Kofi
yeah.
versus Danny Bryan. Although it did a great job of building Bryan up like a fucking monster.
Well, yeah, Brian and it did a great job of building on like the momentum they built with Kofi during that gauntlet match on the SmackDown before it as well.
Yeah,
Because that kind of, he's been a bit of a perennial mid carder, someone who's never really got a sniff at a world title shot, and then in those two shows, they've managed to generate sort of more, you know, fan support for Kofi than they had in like the previous 11 years or however long it is he's been on the roster.
right. They did a really good job of that. So I thought that match was really good overall. Yeah, I'd be very interested to see where they go with Kofi now because like you said, the crowd were really into Kofi being there. But
Mm.
also, like you kind of mentioned, it's been 11 years. The crowd hasn't been that big into Kofi. You know what I mean?
No,
In a
I mean
long, long
as
time.
part of New Day they have, but then that's kind of its own thing off in the tag team division, isn't it?
Right, and even when New Day was a thing, nobody was begging for Kofi to be champion. You know what I mean?
No, no.
I mean, it was a really cool. It was really nice to see everybody get behind Kofi, but like I imagine that the WWE aren't going to put like too much stock into that.
Well, you say that, but he is going to be challenging Daniel Bryan for the title on at Fastlane.
Right, but how do you think that's going to end?
Yeah, well, you never know. If this surge of popularity continues, they might end up changing their plans on the fly. Because at the moment, it doesn't seem like they've got anything set in stone for Daniel Bryan for WrestleMania anyway, or at least not something that's obvious. So who knows?
We were talking about, maybe was it the last podcast we were talking about like how they used to do title changes between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and they don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were like, wouldn't it be great if, for example, at Fastlane, Kofi Kingston did beat Danny Bryan because Kofi, you get a feel good moment for Kofi. They have a
Mm.
match at WrestleMania. Bryan wins the belt back because he's a heel and cheats to win or whatever. And so Kofi gets this little run. Bryan still looks fucking, he doesn't lose anything from losing that one match at Fastlane.
Yeah,
He can get his heat back and get his belt back. Um, that could be a really good story.
it could be, but well, let's just say we don't have the most faith in WWE of doing something like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think that would work. But
Mm.
yeah, let's not hold our breath over that one. But then at Elimination Chamber, there were also a couple of like stupid matches, like um, Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a shame because I was really looking forward to that match.
Well, they kind of did the do-over on the next night on Raw, didn't they?
Right, but I didn't watch that.
Yeah, yeah. Neither
And
did I.
no, and I'm like, I think Ruby Riot's a really good hand to have around. I think she
Mm.
is going to be, she could be a real. I would say she would be a cornerstone of the women's division if she isn't already, because she's on TV a lot, she's featured a lot, and you know, when I say cornerstone of the women's division, I don't necessarily mean on top all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, like, you gotta build this shit on foundations. You want, you know, your top heel, your top babyface, or whatever, but you still have to have like viable contenders. And I
Yeah,
think
and
Ruby,
characters that people are invested in.
yeah, Ruby Riott and the Riott Squad are a perfect example of that. Perfect. So she's gonna stick around for a while. So I was really looking forward to that match, and it was a shame that it didn't happen. Although, let me tell you what the highlight of that for me was. It wasn't just that Becky Lynch came down and like beat the shit out of people with her crutches, because of course that was good. It's Becky Lynch, but fucking Becky Lynch's outfit, she looked exactly like
Jean Grey.
right from fucking the Grant Morrison run. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Because I texted my brother as soon as I saw that. I'm like, dude, Becky Lynch looks exactly like Phoenix from Grant Morrison. And he's like, no, she does. She fucking did. So that was super cool. Hopefully she keeps rocking that outfit. So those are pretty much my takeaways from Elimination Chamber.
Right.
Also, The Miz is no longer champion. Happy about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all right. I'm gonna do. All right, here comes my pitch. All right, pretend you're Vince McMahon. And
Okay.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pitch you a storyline idea. All right. This is gonna happen. You know, last Monday they did that thing on Raw where was it Triple H and like Shane and well not Shane like Vince and everybody else, or was it just Triple H? They came out and said, "Here come these guys from NXT."
I think it was just Triple H.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do this pitch to you now, and then afterwards we'll talk about how stupid it is to bring all these guys up. All right? Because I think it's a stupid idea. But this is what I would have done. This is going to be my pitch to you, Vince McMahon. Are you ready?
Go for it, pal.
That is the best Vince McMahon I've ever heard. All right, so that episode of Raw, let's say it's tonight. We're going to do it. Here we go. Triple H and you, Vince McMahon, both go out to the ring and you say, hey, we're going to have some cool people come down from NXT. And here they are. But before you finish your announcement that has just come out of the blue for no reason, like, for example, you could list off a couple of the guys you're going to bring up and then you're about to introduce them to the crowd. Bam. The lights go out, then the Undisputed Era's music comes on. Undisputed Era from NXT come out, and get this, Vince, they beat the shit out of Triple H and you. Okay? Hold on, there's more. So they just come out and interrupt whatever you're going to say, and just beat the heck out of Triple H and you. Mainly Triple H, you're an old man, you'll be okay. But they beat the heck out of everybody, and then they say, whatever you had planned is nonsense because we are the Undisputed Era in NXT and we're the Undisputed Era main roster. We are here live on Raw. We're going to be on NXT on Wednesday. Hey, good thing there's a TV show in between those two. Maybe we'll turn up on SmackDown. They go away. You guys are stretching out of there. Or help to the back. You're help to the back. Triple H is stretching out of there. You're help to the back. Later on, you make an announcement that says, SmackDown, no, there's going to be security there. I'm going to make sure these punks don't make it to the arena. Tuesday comes, SmackDown. High alert, everybody's looking for the Undisputed Era. Of course, they're in the crowd. They're like plants. They're right at the front of the ring. So, whatever the hell the main event is, they hop over the barrier, beat the heck out of everybody, and say, we're the Undisputed Era. We're here. Deal with it. Then they're on NXT the next day. Could be a pre-tape, doesn't matter. Like the old NWO tapes. Bam, they're like, we're taking over. We're Undisputed Era. That's their catchphrase. it's that one needs a bit of work. But anyway, regardless. So, now all the rosters, the main rosters, are on kind of high alert because now they're looking over their back for these NXT guys. And they're annoyed because you and Triple H were going to announce somebody else to come to the main roster, and they didn't want to be overlooked, so they took their spot. So, a couple of weeks go by, every so often there's like a random kind of attack by the Undisputed Era, or some more of those cool NWO style vignettes that they play, but not specifically like the NWO because it's different. But again, stick with me, Vince. Eventually, they go to SmackDown, and in the time frame I'm looking at, I would ideally like them to be the NXT Tag Team Champions, because then they go to SmackDown, and they win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Whenever they're on both rosters, like, they just seem to be able to overcome the odds, and somehow are able to slip in and out and cause havoc, and nobody can stop them. But then it turns out that there is one team that can stop them, and it's on SmackDown, and it's Sanity. Sanity, who we haven't seen for ages, are the only team that are able to stop the Undisputed Era. They're the only ones that can kind of drive them out of the arena. They're the only ones who like ever manage to like score legitimate pinfalls over them. And so eventually they are the only ones who are able to reclaim the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, which the Undisputed Era are just like walking around with and doing whatever they want with. However, by that point, everybody on SmackDown loves Sanity because they've taken the Tag Team Championships back to SmackDown. Sanity are fed up with the way they've been treated by everybody, how they haven't been on TV for so long, and how everybody likes them and is paying attention to them now only whenever they're saving their asses. So they do like a sting from WCW. This is all very like NWO, but bear with me. Uh-oh. So they vacate the titles. They don't want to be a part of it. And so they refuse to help SmackDown anymore. They will be happy to sit on the sidelines and just watch, because that's what Sanity are about when you think about it. They're just happy to watch the world burn. And then you could just have the Undisputed Era come back, win the belts again, and again make it so that the only people who can really beat them are Sanity. And so SmackDown and the whole WWE now have to do a thing where they have to convince Sanity that they're still part of the roster and everybody still loves them. And then eventually they do make a dramatic comeback at some point where they win the belts a second time and everybody's happy. What do you think about that, Vince?
What do I think? I think you're fired.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I've just given you fucking months worth of storylines where you've just built up two incredible stables full of people. You make a good point, Vince. I'll get my coat.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that has going for it is the fact that it's an actual plan of action where you are actually trying to introduce new characters and get existing characters over, just right. Aim for something in the future. Right. Whereas, what actually happened last week was just like, hey, we got these 4 guys, let's just throw them out there.
Right.
Okay.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
And that's what disappointed me so much about that, because we are a fucking month removed from WWE going, hey, here's 6 new guys we're bringing to the main roster from NXT.
Yeah.
And what the fuck have any of them done?
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, Lacey Evans just walks down the ramp and then walks back up again.
To be fair,
EC3 isn't allowed to speak at all.
I really like that Lacey Evans bit.
It's just weird.
I love that. That was such a good spot. That, like, I think they could have made it a little bit clearer, where she was just like so disgusted with the audience she didn't want to be there. Like, that was the angle, but I'm like, it was just pretty funny. She just walked out. She looked like she was lost. That was my favorite bit. She's like she walks out and goes, "Oh, this isn't the bathroom," and then just walks back again.
Yeah, so it's not even good for the right reason. It's just good because it was just ridiculous.
Funny. Yeah, but then also fucking those guys, Heavy Machinery.
Yeah,
I really like them.
Yeah, they're pretty entertaining.
Right, but on the pre-show of Elimination Chamber, they were doing this bit where the bar came over to the panel and just started talking shit to them. And then Heavy Machinery came out and were like, hey, don't talk shit or whatever, And Sheamus is like, well, whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. You're on both shows. You can't even make up your minds about that. Why, pick a show, pick a side. And I'm like, he's entirely correct. They haven't, they put those two guys. Those two guys have probably maybe had the best TV time out of all of those call-ups.
Yeah, I'd say so. Them and arguably Nikki Cross as well, but then she's kind of fluctuated between heel and face way too much already.
Yeah, it's unclear what they're going to do with her, because again, they don't really know. So I'm like, you have all these guys right here, and also the aforementioned Sanity. You have all these guys you're not using. I'm like, you have to be able to sort this out. That NXT call-up thing from last week was a quick fix to a real problem.
Yeah.
And a problem that's not going to be, fixed properly by kind of cutting corners like that. You need to find out what the root of the problem is. And the root of the problem is they're just not using people properly. They have too many people. I mean, it just is fair to say at this point that they have too many people for the TV time they're willing to denote to those people.
Well, that's the thing, though. Raw has those 3 hours where, in theory, they could devote enough time to, giving lots of individual superstars or tag teams some spots, but they just never do it. It's such a poorly planned show, 9 times out of 10, that they just seem to, throw shit against the wall and see what sticks, which may have worked in the past, but, we kind of want to have the suggestion that they actually know what they're doing and have a direction that they're aiming for.
Right.
It's like the whole, fast tracking up these NXT guys as well, on top of all these other guys they've called up as well, who've not really featured as heavily. They're supposed to be doing they're already advertising an international superstar shakeup on April 15th, another kind of whatever it's called, draft thing where they're going to shake up the rosters and stuff. So it seems weird that they're kind of bringing these guys up now rather than leaving them as surprises for that kind of shake-up thing.
Right. Why would we tune into this shake-up when it's already happened twice this year?
Yeah.
And also, the guys that they called up, they have shit that's going on in NXT.
Yeah.
They're already busy. They already have shit going on. I don't get this. It was a really strange move that I didn't appreciate.
I do love all 4 guys that they brought up, though.
Yeah.
Ricochet, awesome. Aleister Black, amazing. Ciampa and Gargano have just probably had the best feud in wrestling going on the last 2 years or whatever. Right. But yeah, it does feel like they've got a lot of unfinished business to take care of before they should be even, teased to come up to the main roster.
Right. They've got all these guys who, Aleister Black, for example, everybody was like, he's going to the main roster soon. That was a given. But, you can't just turn up. Aleister Black was one of those guys you could have put money on it that there would have been a month's worth of vignettes and video packages and stuff like that to build this guy up. I would have put money on it that's exactly what they would have done, because that's how you get that guy over.
Mm-hmm.
If you just go, here's the guy, people are like, all right, good. If you don't tell them. This is a thing that's annoyed me in wrestling before. Whenever, stuff happens and everybody's like, hey, it's this guy. And I'm watching going, I don't know who that guy is. You know what I mean? If you don't build him up, if I don't know who it is supposed to be, then what's the deal? Like, I remember watching TNA one time, right? And I don't really watch indie wrestling. I'd like to watch more than I do, but I don't.
Mm.
So deal with it. This is years ago, but I was watching TNA, and then there was a match, and then some guy came out to interfere in it, right? And that guy is called Moose.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know who the fuck Moose is. Right? But the commentary was like literally like Michael Cole-esque. Just, it's Moose! Here's Moose! It's fucking... And I'm like, well, who is he? Like, what? I don't know who that is. They're like, he's the biggest free agent in wrestling. After a lot of just, it's Moose. Like, he's the biggest free agent in wrestling. I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know who that is. Like... it's hard for me to get behind this guy that I've never fucking seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I care if he just turns up? Because Moose isn't like, for example, if John Cena had come out and they went, it's John Cena, I would have been like, oh fuck yeah, it is. Holy shit, right? That's the kind of call where that would be justified for it.
Yeah.
But to just if I don't know who the guy is, so like if you're a casual fan and you're watching, or if you're there because your kids love the show, the main roster show, and they might not pay for the network, whatever, and you get to the show and everybody's like, and here's Tommaso Ciampa, you're like, what? Aleister Black, you're like, oh, good, like. I don't know. The idea was to bring them out and make them work a match so that people would instantly get into them. But I'm like, those guys that they called up would all have benefited and should have benefited from like a proper introduction.
Absolutely.
There's definitely guys where you could have get away with it. Without you didn't really need to. Like for example, those heavy machinery guys. I'm like, you don't really need to do too much with them. You put them on camera, they're going to do the work for you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to get their gimmick over, which they do. Well, I fucking love those guys, because when you watch them wrestle, you get it. You know what I mean? They've got character, and they get that across in their wrestling. You know what I mean? That's really good. Really, really good. But, like, Aleister Black, for sure, could have used that kind of mystique-building vignette. That would have been perfect. And then people would have been like, yeah, fuck yeah, Aleister Black. I don't know who he is, but I want to see him. Like, I don't know. It was mystifying to me that they would do that so close after calling up those other guys that they aren't using.
Yeah, but it does seem almost like a bit of a jerk reaction, though, doesn't it? Because it's not exactly a secret that the ratings haven't been amazing over the past few months. Like they had their worst rating ever back in I think it was the second week of December. Like a 2.19 million people were watching Raw, which is pretty bad. And even like they've had lower ones on like Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but those are expected. But like this year's Christmas Eve edition of Raw, there's only 1.78 million people watching the show, compared to like the last time they had a Raw on a Christmas Eve in 2012, which was like 3.14 million. So it just goes to show like the audience just isn't there anymore, and I don't know if that's because they're not doing enough to kind of grab them, or if there's too many other options going on, or whatever. But it's definitely a worrying trend, especially with this big TV deal they've just struck with Fox and SmackDown.
Right. I thought that was funny. I heard somebody say that Ronda Rousey was the reason they got that big deal from Fox.
Yeah, really?
Well, maybe not necessarily the only sole reason, but like what they were going to try and do with SmackDown on Fox was to try and make it more wrestling based and more sport based.
Yeah.
To fit in with a lot of their other sports shows, and the idea of having a legitimate athlete on there like Ronda Rousey. Not to say, obviously, that the wrestlers aren't legitimate athletes. You understand that. I mean, an athlete who already has a big presence in the sporting world outside of wrestling, like Ronda Rousey, who's still pretty hot. But I've also heard that Ronda Rousey might not be sticking around for the rest of the year. She
Yeah,
might not only be here till like SummerSlam, for example. And I think their deal with Fox starts in like September or October, doesn't it?
something like that. Yeah.
Right. So Ronda Rousey's not going to be there to promote the show that they used her to get. And I'm like, it's funny their kind of lack of foresight. Let me tell you the worst thing about their lack of foresight right now. The fact that we see them doing all these call ups right now to try and revitalize interest in the product is that it really makes it seem like they don't have a plan going into WrestleMania.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, they've been accused of booking shows on the fly before, but those shows that they book on the fly are usually Raw or SmackDown. It's not usually the fucking biggest show of the year. So I think that's the most alarming. And again, it could just be that fucking the dirt sheets are wrong, and maybe there is a big plan in place for WrestleMania. But just from looking at the way that they're booking things and the way that they're handling their TV shows at the moment, it really doesn't seem like there is a big plan for WrestleMania, because it just seems like they're pulling stuff out of their ass at like any given opportunity.
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure they've got a couple of things in place, but like,
yeah, they must do.
but we're only like what 2 months away from WrestleMania. It's in April.
It's like April the 5th or something. So
Yeah.
I think it's just over a month.
It's the beginning of April, I think.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like they've got a whole lot of stuff planned out, and I think that that's kind of alarming. Because usually they have a lot of shit planned out for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Far
Well,
ahead.
they've you've seen as well this week the news about them bringing back Bruce Pritchard to like pretty much head up the creative team.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously someone who's been there and done that before. Like I think he worked with WWE from like '92 until 2008 in that role basically as Vince's right hand man. But it seems like maybe that's a step forward in terms of them kind of looking ahead and trying to do some more long-term storytelling perhaps.
Maybe. But then again,
we'll see.
Yeah, like it is still like a lot of stuff they're doing really close to WrestleMania,
Yeah.
I'm like,
and there's always the worry as well because he's got this prior relationship with Vince. Maybe he's just going to be like the yes man who's just there to agree with all of Vince's dumb ideas.
Which would definitely be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But then again, we don't know how. Well, I guess all of Vince's fucking dumb ideas have been going through. So, I don't know how much difference that'll make. Like, the fucking call-ups were not... Apparently Triple H was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you can understand why Triple H would be upset about that. He's done a really good job of making NXT. Again, I'm not going to say he is the sole reason that NXT has been so good, but like he takes care of it, and it must really suck to have a lot of the stuff kind of upended like that. I had heard whenever Jim Cornette was running OVW that he used to get that kind of stuff all the time, where somebody like Johnny Ace or somebody would just call him up and they're like, we need this guy for TV right now, and Cornette's like, we need him for stuff. We have stuff we need to do. We've got like he him. He would plan his storylines 6 months in advance. So he's like, dude, we can't give him to you. Give me 2 weeks, or whatever, 2 weeks minimum, so that I can get him off TV and write him off and help him put somebody else over on the way out, and then he can come up and do whatever you want. And they were like, nope. Like he told a story of, you remember the Basham brothers?
Yeah, Doug and Danny.
Yeah, one of them, I think it was Doug, I can't remember which one, but like one of them had like really long hair, and one day he just turned up to OVW with his head shaved, And Cornette's like, "What the fuck have you done? What? Who told you to do that?" And he's like, "Oh, I got told from the guys on the main roster to cut my hair." And he's like, "Son of a bitch!
Yeah.
If I'd have known that, I could have booked like a career versus hair match or something. I could have made it into a storyline." But instead, this fucking guy now has a completely different look for no reason for like 2 weeks until he gets called up to the main roster. Like it ruins the plan. And I reckon Triple H is probably going through something similar.
Oh, for sure.
Where he's like, Ciampa and Gargano are in a storyline right now. It could pay off. We need to, and it's almost finished as well. Like the story is about to come to a close, and now they get fucking thrown up here for no reason. It's not going to work. Especially because nobody's really sure how permanent those NXT call-ups are.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we said, a lot of those guys still have business to finish up in NXT.
All four of the guys that got called up last week are going to be involved in this year's Dusty Rhodes Classic.
Right. So they've still got business to take care of in NXT. So, and that takes a couple of weeks. The Dusty Rhodes Classic, which will that come to a head at like the takeover before WrestleMania?
I think they've set it up, so yeah, it might be.
So they're gonna have a very busy WrestleMania. Historically they've usually done a lot of call-ups and surprises on the week after WrestleMania. So do you think that what they're really doing is just like kind of testing the water and like not necessarily eliminating the surprise element, but more like familiarizing the audience with some of these guys? Because as we've talked about before, a lot of the NXT crowd aren't necessarily the same audience that watches live or on TV. There's going to be a lot of people who are not familiar with these guys. So are they just kind of like bringing them up a little bit to see how well they get over? And so that whenever they do bring them on board full time, people are used to them.
I mean, yeah, there's probably an element of that to it because, like you say, they need to kind of introduce them and prepare the audience for them when they're part of the main roster full time. But I don't know. It still just seems like such a snap decision. Just Vince trying to do whatever he can just to shake things up. And it doesn't seem like they've put that much thought into it, or what it will evolve into, or how it will affect, what they're doing in NXT, as well as how they'll be portrayed on the main roster. Where even like looking at, say, last week's Raw and SmackDown, Ciampa and Gargano, who've basically been heels in NXT, were faces on Raw and SmackDown for no good reason, and back teaming together again despite all of the stuff that they've been through. It's just like, well, there is no grand plan in place here. It's just, hey, it's these guys, you know them, check them out.
But it just seems like such a weird way, because even for those other guys that they called up, that they haven't done anything with, they still said, hey, we're bringing these guys up next week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for them to just surprise that on a crowd, is bizarre because they can't advertise it beforehand. Nobody knows those guys are going to be there. So, like, it's hard to appeal to that audience if they don't know they're going to be there.
It's all very kind of symptomatic of their booking over this last couple of months as well. Like, since that historic low rating, they brought back like the entire McMahon family to TV. They kind of fast tracked the women's tag team titles. They keep promising change and all this kind of stuff, and removing Baron Corbin as like the figurehead on Raw and stuff like that, and it's just, they're throwing so many different ideas at the wall now. It seems that nothing really has a chance to stick.
Right, man. This is what we were saying. Oh no, we didn't actually say this in the podcast. We were talking about it. But we were talking about how Cody Rhodes had said that for All Elite Wrestling, we're gonna let the fans decide. The fans are in charge. And we were like, well, that's a dumb idea because the fans are idiots and they don't know what they want. Now, generally, the WWE sticks to their guns about stuff like this. I mean, like in extreme cases, they'll make a change. Daniel Bryan, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But like for the most part, they stick to their guns. And while a lot of people don't like it, generally it works out because at least they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, if, for example, if they have a plan and then suddenly the audience is calling for somebody else that they want to see in the show, now they're like, should we put this guy in as well, or should we just stick with our plan and just see how that works?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't seem like they have a plan. And to even say that the audience is in charge is bullshit because they still aren't. They still aren't listening to people. But it proves that, like, you can't please all the people all of the time. So you just have to do what you really think is best for business because, that's what they do. They have to just kind of get themselves across the line. And yeah, recently not doing such a good job of that because they don't know what they're doing and they aren't sticking to their guns, and that's the problem. I think you can't say you're going to listen to the fans because they don't know what they want. Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons with Poochie?
Yeah.
And the guy who made Itchy and Scratchy, he does the test for the kids where he like looks through the mirror to see what they're all voting for.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they like Itchy, they like Scratchy. One guy really loves the Speedo guy. What more do they want? You know what I mean? And he bursts out of the room and he says, this is why you don't listen to people like you, because you're kids and you're stupid. I'm like, well, the man has a point. Not that everybody is stupid, but hello, I guess they kind of are.
Yeah.
But like then, to try and please the fans, they brought in Poochie that turned out to be the worst thing that ever happened to the show. And so they went back to the status quo that was working, and they had a plan for, and everybody had a good time again. So
what you're saying is WWE needs their own Poochie to come in and distract everyone for a while, and then we can go back to how it used to be.
I'm saying that they seem to be getting dangerously close to Poochie territory. And I would say this to All Elite Wrestling as well. Once you start listening to the fans too much, or trying to appease the fans too much, you're going to get lost, because then you end up with an amalgamation like Poochie, that he's cool, but he's got an attitude, but it recycles, you can't hit all the boxes at once, which I think a lot of the internet smarks want them to do, but you can't. You just can't. So they need to stick with their guns and, pick a guy and just do better. I know that sounds redundant because they haven't been doing better. And also that's a very easy thing to say.
Yeah.
With no like criticism or backup or whatever. But they need to come up with like a proper plan. Because then we can criticize them about that.
Yeah, exactly. And stick to the plan as well.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter because, it still kind of gets over. I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Elimination Chamber. I thought that was, for the most part, a lot of fun. So, like, stuff is moving in the right kind of direction. They're still getting stuff right. Things are still kind of moving. But at the same time, it's just, it's getting weird,
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, part of it is something I'm pretty sure we talked about before, is just there's such a lack of star power in Raw, especially these days, with no John Cena. Brock Lesnar doesn't really appear very often. Roman Reigns obviously hasn't been around for a few months now. But yeah, even like Seth Rollins is not been wrestling since the Royal Rumble because he's trying to heal up from injuries and stuff. And so you're just left with like the same old matches with, you know, Braun Strowman against Baron Corbin or Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley. Or they're wheeling out like Jeff Jarrett to have random matches for some god awful reason.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that one.
Yeah, but it's just like without anyone to kind of grab people's attention. Maybe that's why they've gone to the well with all these NXT guys, because at least that does create some buzz and you know, it's trying to say, hey, these are guys we haven't ruined yet. Check them out.
Well, I want to throw something at you now. It's not quite a pitch, but like, you know, stick around. Whenever you're talking about Jeff Jarrett there, he came back to fight with Elias.
Mm-hmm.
But is Elias a heel now?
Yeah, I guess he kind of turned at the Royal Rumble.
Right. Isn't that... honestly, hitting Jeff Jarrett with a guitar makes you A-okay in my book. But also because he's such a fucking heel anyway, you would imagine that whoever hits him with the guitar is going to be a de facto face because he is a heel. But like, there was a guy who was getting positive reactions and was getting over with the crowd, and now appears to have gone back to just being a heel and trying to insult people. And I'm like, well, that could have been your guy.
I don't know.
Well, no, listen, I'm not a big fan of Elias. I don't really know much about him. I haven't seen him work. But people were getting behind him.
I think he was getting good reactions for his songs and stuff, but his matches kind of stunk as a face. He just, I don't know, he spent so long as a heel, it seems like he's not really familiar with working as a face, and it kind of, you know, it's hard to get behind him.
Right, but then isn't this the kind of stuff you're supposed to work out in NXT?
Yeah,
isn't that the whole point of bringing them up? Is that you want to bring these guys up when they're ready? Isn't that like the entire point?
He kind of got fast tracked up as well, though.
Yes, he did.
Like when he was in NXT for years and years, but from finding his like Elias the Drifter gimmick, like there wasn't a big turnaround between that and then brought up to Raw.
Right. Again, like they don't know what they're doing sometimes. But I'm like, there's a guy, like what you're saying about a lot of these, there's no star power on the roster these days. I'm like, well, the problem is because there seems to be a lot of injuries, but also because, you know, they're not building people properly. And I'm like, there's Elias, there's a guy who got over and was, you know, still getting over, and young guy, you could easily work stuff around. Like, I don't see why, for example, they couldn't have put him in that Intercontinental Championship match against Lashley and won, for example, as a face. I mean, you could have turned him after that because the feel-good moment would have been this guy that people were getting behind beating Lashley. Would have been a good rub for him. Then he could have turned heel. That all could have worked. But it's still like you're building up a star. And Finn Balor, who already has a bit of a name, could have like gone to the main event and done something there. If some of these guys are kind of out, or you need to kind of extend something for a month, if you need like a stopgap, you know, Finn Balor is a star guy, you can put him in there. I'm like, you know, maybe there's solutions to these problems that they're just not seeing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just a lot of short-sightedness, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Which is a real shame. I don't think we're going to be able to change anybody's minds anytime soon. It's just, you know, some days it gets tough to watch.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've not watched a single Raw this year so far.
No, I haven't watched.
Although I might watch tonight's one just because I want to see what this whole Roman Reigns situation is, though.
Well, what do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I'm hopeful it's, you know, good news about him kind of on the mend from his leukemia. But I mean, it does seem like pretty quick to get the all clear from something major like that. I mean, we don't know the exact details of when it sort of reappeared and how long he's been fighting it before that announcement back in September or whatever it was. But yeah, even still, it's kind of crazy that he could potentially be on the road back and maybe even in time for WrestleMania if he can get into ring shape between now and then.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I would imagine that he's just gonna kind of pop in and say everything's good, not ready to come back yet. I honestly can't see them bringing him back before WrestleMania. I mean, they could say he's cleared. They could say the cancer is back in remission or whatever, but all that stuff still takes a toll on your body. And you not just getting back in the ring shape, but you'd have to kind of do a lot more kind of rehabbing and stuff like that. I don't know what kind of treatments he's going through, but like some of that stuff can really drain you.
Yeah.
And if he is all clear, God willing, then I would imagine it'll still take him till after WrestleMania, or you'd want him to be taking those 2 months till after WrestleMania to be the best that he can be. You know what I mean? I don't see him coming out tonight or on Monday, I should say, whenever this fucking podcast goes up. But I don't see him coming to the ring and saying, "Yeah, I'm back. I'll be on Raw next week." I don't buy that at all unless they're doing some kind of like thing where they write him out of storylines again. Like where they bring him back and then somebody beats him up and he's out until after WrestleMania. But again, that would be pointless.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense.
Which is exactly why they're going to do it.
They probably will. But I don't see that, to be honest with you. It's a weird one. Like, I didn't understand the timing of bringing Roman Reigns back. Like I said to you earlier, I think it seems a bit like a ratings grab. But this time they're smart enough to advertise it beforehand.
I mean, you can't blame them for making a big deal out of it and, trying to boost the ratings by advertising Roman coming back and all, but it is a bit exploitative.
Well, I think it's really literally just going to be him going, "I'm going to be okay, but I still need a couple more months before I'm back." You know what I mean? Like, you could easily do a thing where he's like, "I'm going to be okay, but I'll be back at..." I was going to say Backlash, but Backlash is no longer a thing, I don't think. Whatever the fuck the one in after WrestleMania is. In May, I guess. It used to be Judgment Day in May, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. No, was it? I thought it was always Backlash.
No, but Backlash was after WrestleMania. But WrestleMania used to be in March.
Oh, yeah.
And Backlash would be in April, and then Judgment Day was in May, I think. And then King of the Ring in June.
Yep.
And then something in July that usually changed. August was SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
And then Unforgiven in September. And then, what the fuck did they have in October?
Was that... Did they have something like Vengeance or No Mercy or something like that?
No Mercy, that's what it was. No Mercy. And then Survivor Series in November, and then something else in December. See that? That's a good old trip down memory lane. But now they've started doing WrestleMania in August.
Yeah.
Oh, not August. What the fuck? Cut that bit out. In April. So now we've got three. It used to be in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, you would have one pay-per-view, and it worked out perfectly because you kind of time stuff out really well. Because if you're the de facto number one contender in January, you could do something in February to get you into March. But now you have to do something from January to February, and then also from February to March to April.
But I think they're still trying to squeeze in too much, though, because WrestleMania is typically like the first weekend in April. So it's not like it's, that much further away from the end of March than it should be. So you could still, they could have done Elimination Chamber this past weekend rather than last weekend, and then they could have, cut out Fastlane altogether.
Right, because Fastlane's in like 2 weeks now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they got nothing booked for that one either, do they? Do they? Shit,
they've
might.
got the Daniel Bryan Kofi Kingston match booked.
Yes, and that's probably it.
I think the Usos and Shane McMahon and Miz are gonna have a rematch as well.
Oh no! I have to sit through this for 3 months. I'm gonna have to sit through this for 4 months because they're gonna do it at WrestleMania. God damn it! This is their main problem. The Miz is still on television.
Yeah.
Really, we're just interested to see. Well, interested isn't even the right word. We're waiting with bated breath to see what comes next because I don't think either of us are too optimistic about it.
Aside from the whole Raw Women's title scene, I'd say. I think they've been doing a pretty good job with that and bringing Charlotte into the mix, and which was interesting to see, their reaction to it a couple of weeks ago from, all the internet fans kind of shitting all over her being involved in the feud when she's basically been involved going all the way back to Survivor Series, so I don't really see what the big deal is.
Right. Again, this is a case of them sticking to their guns. I think you got this thing, you had it in your head, just see it through. I'm like, there's nothing really wrong with a triple threat. I mean, I would rather have seen the one-on-one, but the triple threat still works. It's still okay. These are still the 3 biggest names in women's wrestling that they have right now. So, I don't see why they wouldn't do it. But then again, if they wanted to go down that route, there's still a way out of that where they could easily have Becky Lynch versus Charlotte at Fastlane, for example, for proper official number 1 contendership. Yeah. And if Becky loses, she's still banned or whatever. And if she wins, she gets the sole title shot. There's ways around it. That could easily still be a thing. They still got a few weeks to build that. We don't know. What I loved about it was the absolute gall of the WWE to go, we're listening to the fans. Here's Charlotte. I mean, that is pure WWE right there. Just them we know what you want. And for the most part, I'm not too opposed by that because, like I said, they usually have a plan, they stick with it. And, shit doesn't normally go too badly when they stick with a plan. I'm not saying they're all perfect, but I mean, as we've discussed, having a plan is much better than not having a plan.
Yeah.
So, I'm not opposed to that at all. Yeah.
I think it makes sense as well, just from a reaction point of view. They don't want Ronda Rousey to get booed. They still see her as a big kind of babyface character, even though you kind of get the sense in the last couple of months or so that the fans are starting to turn on her a little bit. So having Charlotte involved as well kind of takes some of that heat off Ronda and hopefully puts it on Charlotte.
Right.
So,
it puts a ton of heat on Charlotte, which is great because she's a really good heel. She can take it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's perfect for a heel. There's legitimate heat there, and also what it does is we kind of talked about how Ronda Rousey might not be sticking around the whole year. She might only stick around till SummerSlam, for example.
Yeah.
If in this match it is a triple threat, you have Becky pin Charlotte. So then Ronda Rousey has never been pinned, has never, whatever.
Yeah.
Technically, she didn't lose the belt. simple, easy fucking rematch right at SummerSlam.
Absolutely.
And that's the big match people wanted to see. Like this is old school booking right here. You know what I mean? Like it could be done. And that would have a storyline to it. And then by that point, if Ronda Rousey did want to leave, she could, do the honors for Becky Lynch and make Becky look even better than she already does, which is really hard because she looks really good already. I'm like, if they were to play it out like that, then they've done it right.
Yeah,
it's a big if, though.
Exactly. It's a big if, but that's the way it looks like they're gonna go. But you just never know.
I'd be okay with that if that was the way it went, and hopefully they have more plans or more steady and concrete plans for, which it appears that they do, for Becky and for Ronda Rousey than they do for everybody else on the fucking show. Especially if you're in a tag team.
The thing I'm worried about in the Becky situation is more the aftermath. Like, once all the smoke is cleared from WrestleMania, and if Becky's the women's champion, like, where does she go from there, though? Because there's no one else then on her level that she can feud with aside from Charlotte and Ronda. And if Ronda's gone after WrestleMania, and Charlotte, they've kind of done that match a lot already. Yeah. Like, who is Becky gonna start feuding with at that point? Because she's just on such a different level to all the other women on the roster. It's it's hard to find someone who's gonna match up with her.
Well, that's the trick, man. That's the problem they have, is that they're not really building up enough people to follow Becky Lynch. And again, like, if they went with that scenario where Ronda Rousey did want a rematch at SummerSlam, I think you would be able to properly kind of stretch that gap between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. You could bring out Ruby Riott again. Everybody loves watching Ruby Riott lose a match. But, like, there are probably enough women who are good enough in the ring to be able to get them to SummerSlam. Because after SummerSlam, it doesn't matter what you do with Becky. If I were them, I would do the old Stone Cold routine, which is what I think they are going to do and have been doing, where they just keep the belt off her as much as, or they make it seem like they're trying to take the belt off Becky.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did with Austin. Vince never wanted Austin to be, in storyline, never wanted Austin to be champion, so he would do whatever he could to make sure Austin wouldn't leave with the belt. And so a lot of the fun was either watching Austin get out of that mess or watching Austin get, like, revenge for the mess he was in. That was always the fun of it. Either one-upping McMahon or getting revenge on McMahon. So I could see them playing something like that, where, like, various circumstances kind of, have, like, for example, the way, Becky won the belt and then she had to get rid of it. Well, she didn't have to get rid of it, but, like, she was injured, and then, she was put in that triple threat. Like, odds were stacked against her, and it didn't hurt her at all, because people still want to see her with the belt. You know what I mean? Like, the passion carries over. Her not having the belt doesn't matter too much, because they know that it's likely she's going to get it back again. Like with Austin. So I think they're probably going to do that after SummerSlam. Again, if they stick with this at all, but that's the route they should go to, where, like, Becky keeps getting screwed out of the belt, and then you're instantly making great fucking heels. If somebody is really sucking up to Stephanie McMahon, they can, like, try to set the rules in their favor and screw Becky out of the belt, and then they look better because they're being heelish. I don't know. I think it can be done, but
who they probably do that with, though, is Nia Jax, because she's the one they want to push as, like, the big monster heel and stuff. So I can see it being a case of Nia ends up taking that role and stinking up the ring basically because she's not great.
Well, that's why I would have had her. And by the way, fucking teaming those two together has made it a real nightmare for me to talk about them. But Nia Jax and Tamina.
Yep.
Fuck me. Those two girls, I would have had them as like the maybe not necessarily the first of the women's tag team champions, but definitely like heavy contenders to be the next ones, at least for the moment, because it gives both of those people something to do, and realistically, you wouldn't be surprised to see either of them be champion, because they're both big women, that are imposing to a lot of the other female wrestlers,
Yeah.
So like it makes sense. The problem is, as you have covered quite eloquently, is that neither of them are that good. Nia is better than Tamina.
Yeah.
By a significant margin.
I think I'd be better than Tamina.
Tamina
and I don't have an athletic bone in my body.
Dude, I guarantee you could hit a better top rope splash. And that is embarrassing, dude. That's her fucking bread and butter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a legacy right there.
And it's sloppy as all hell. So Nia's definitely better. I don't think she's bad, but she is definitely like kind of sloppy on it. I can, I definitely would have both of those guys. If tag team would be a good place to do it, because they can work with other people, and they can kind of keep to themselves and help each other out as well. I think that's a better option for them both at the moment, because like you said, separately it makes sense for Nia to be the one to go after whoever the champion is. So what you want to do is keep them both busy and hope that they get better. And if they don't, superstar shake up them back to NXT till they get good. But like for the moment, keep them in the tag team. And again, like it's an easy fucking rub for whoever beats them. You know what I mean? Whoever beats those two is going to look great because they're hard to beat. And apparently they don't pull their punches either. So if you can beat them, you're doing well. That just seems to be like, that's what I would have done. If I were booking that Elimination Chamber match, I would have had either those two win or the Iconics. I think the Iconics they're two of the best. Oh, I love them. They're so good. And they work really well as a team. Like, that's what I liked about that Elimination Chamber, is that you got to see everybody's spots, and you got to see those two work perfectly as a team. And you're like, they are a team. You know what I mean? Like, they know what they're doing. But what I would have like had a heel team win for the purposes of having a face team beat them at WrestleMania. Like, I would have had Bayley and Sasha beat them at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it was you or somebody I was talking to was talking about how you can't have all of the good guys win at WrestleMania. They can't all be winners. I get that. But I'm like, that would have been the right story. For sure. But
yeah.
I don't know. What do we know? No. Not a whole lot. So, do you want to wrap this up? Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
I can't think of anything else.
I think we covered everything pretty much, pretty well. If you can think of anything else, we'll do another one. But yeah, all right. We shall see what happens after Fastlane on the build to WrestleMania next time. So make sure you check us out and listen to us then, you sons of bitches. See you later.